The X-Men are all dead. What's next? This is the continuation of Fall of X, the big event in the X-Men universe. At the Hellfire Gala, a clone of Mr. Sinister orchestrated the end of the X-Men, turning the entire world against them. One of the final acts he did was causing Professor Xavier to send every mutant into the Krakoan gates. But he doesn't know where they went, and he thinks that he killed them all. While this is going on, the X-Men themselves are trying to reassemble and figure out what to do next. And Kitty Pryde disagrees with their path and has now become a crazy, deadly assassin. Today we're going to be covering Immortal X-Men 14 and X-Men number 26. This is Comicstorian. I make audio dramas of comic books so that you know what to add to your collection and you can keep up with your favorite storylines. And today, we're continuing the X-Men. Charles Xavier kneels on the beaches of Krakoa, staring out into the sunset. Memories of the recent past flash through his mind. Of Destiny asking him to get Mystique to safety if anything happens. Of the mutants partying at the Hellfire Gala. Of Orca's attack with the Sentinels. Killing everyone that they could. Humans and mutants alike. Charles has fallen to his knees at the death and destruction. And the leaders of Orcus stood over him and delivered their terms. We've hacked more than your medicines. We've also hacked your gates. Right now, they all point off Earth. We'll kill no more humans if every mutant leaves. This is a cancer surgery. Charles, you are that cancer, Dr. Stasis says, standing next to Moira McTaggart. Moira ordering Xavier to tell the mutants to go, and he does. The mutants all step through the gate, and Xavier suddenly gasps. I can't reach them! Any of them! They're all dead and I've killed them, he gasps. And now that those memories have faded, he sits at the beach, the sole remaining mutant on Krakoa, and he watches the sunset. The day after the gala, Sebastian Shaw stands at his new office in Orcus. He laughs as he is ordered to take the cure that will make him a human. Very well, if my new partners at Orcus need a show of good faith, they'll have it. He tells his assistant as he takes the cure, his body spasming for a moment before he straightens up. There, no longer a mutant, he says with a smile. He looks at his new assistant and demands to know an analysis of his funds. But she looks at her tablet nervously and admits to him. Your funds are unchanged. Shaw doesn't understand, explaining to her that he owns all of Krakoa now. Yes, sir, you own all of Krakoa, the island, not the country's funds, she tells him, explaining that the new White King owns all of Krakoa's funds. Shaw stands in anger, and his assistants step back, but he merely turns to grab his jacket, heading towards the door. Why are you quivering? Did you think I'd throw you off the building or something? He asks, and she nervously admits yes, but Shaw shakes his head. I'm not a bloody supervillain. I'm a businessman. He snaps at her as he heads for the door. Later, Shaw storms into the Hellfire Gala, ignoring the bouncer at the door who insists that he is not a member. He storms into the back room where he lights the candles and calls forth Mother Righteous. Get out here, you lying pain! Shaw snaps as he performs the ritual, a red mist swirling through the room, and the female clone of Nathaniel Essex appears. Quiet, love. I've still got a banging hangover from the gala after party, Mother Righteous says as she appears in the mist. Shaw angrily demands to know why he wasn't given Krakoa's funds as a part of the deal that they made for his betrayal of the island. And Mother Righteous smiles. You act like you made a deal with a businesswoman. You made a deal with a magician, a storyteller. You make a deal in a story and it's never quite what you wanted. Nice doing magic with you. She motions over his shoulder as the Hellfire guards storm into the room, aiming their weapons at him. Your Hellfire Club membership has been canceled by the new owner. You are expelled, the guards tell him, and Shaw finally relents, storming out. On his way, his assistant catches up with him, revealing the identity of the new White King. It's Wilson Fisk. The Kingpin is the new White King. She tells him, but the room suddenly fades away and Shaw is standing in darkness with Emma Frost standing over him. Shaw, you worm of a man, you are a disappointment, she snaps. Outside of the club, Shaw has fallen to his knees, but his assistant shakes him back awake. Sir, are you okay? Do you need medical assistance? She asks him, and Shaw shakes his head, pushing her away. He stands telling her that it is time to start exploiting Krakoa's resources so that he can start earning money again. But the problem with that is that Krakoa is now full of monsters. Not real monsters, but Charles can sense when Shaw's people arrive. They have come to the island to steal from it, his island, the mutants' island. So when they arrive, Charles Xavier creates images in their minds, images of monsters that attack them, and the workers always run screaming for their boats and they sail away, with Charles standing guard. Meanwhile, nowhere, no when. Exodus looks down at Hope and Destiny. They stand in the great desert and Hope looks at Exodus, who has pushed her through the gate. Oh God, you didn't have to push so hard. Where are we? She asks, looking around in shock, but Destiny is getting to her feet, and she begins to scream. I can't see the future! It's nothing but white space! She gasps in shock. Exodus looks over the desert and sees the rest of the mutants that came through the portal with them. It's the whole population of Krakoa, the ones that Xavier forced through the portals. They were meant to arrive in Arakko, instead we're in the desert? Exodus says quietly, and Hope looks at him. We have no food, no water. What are we going to do? She questions, and Exodus steps forward, sun glinting off the halo over his head, a byproduct of his gala finery. Listen to me, mutants! He shouts, getting everyone's attention. We will survive the desert, as I did so long ago. We will be transformed. We are mutant pilgrims, and I will lead you to the promised land, he calls out, motioning behind him, where the sun crests over the endless dunes. This way! Follow me, he says, with Exodus turning, beginning to walk. After a moment, the rest of the mutants begin to follow him. What is this way? Hope asks him quietly. A promised land, he says simply. She questions whether Exodus knows this for a fact, but he shakes his head. Absolutely not, but I have faith. We now move into XMen 26. The Hellfire Gala. The Sentinels had arrived, they blasted everything that they could, and Wilson Fisk was in attendance with his wife, Mary. During the danger, Mary was pulled to safety, but afterwards, Fisk found himself in the sewers with Emma Frost. Fisk was now on Emma's side, a woman that he had never worked with before, and he puts one of his massive hands on her shoulder. If they have not already, Orcus will move to seize your considerable assets. Resources will be needed for your war effort, he says softly, and Emma nods. Very well. Will you help me? She asks in a whisper, and Fisk looks down at her. Yes, your enemies are my enemies. We must move quickly. Now, at the newly remade Hellfire Club, Wilson Fisk has been crowned the new White King, and the rumor was that Emma Frost died the night of the Orcus attack. Tony Stark was acting as the Black King after he was defeated by Orcus, and part of his Iron Man technology had been stolen by them and put into the new Sentinels. Now he was acting the part of the defeated Playboy, while secretly designing a new set of armor that could help them win the war. But he is suddenly pulled away from the blackjack table by his assistant, Miss Kendall, who desperately needs to speak with him. As the doors to the private suite close behind them, Tony drops the drunk billionaire act. Thanks for the save, Emma, he tells her. She nods in her disguise, asking if the mole inside of Orcus is the mutant Firestar. If she's your mole, tell her that she's been targeted by a rogue mutant assassin who has no hope of surviving. If she's not a mole, then I'll go fetch an urn from the basement, Emma says, and Tony pauses. I better make a call. Out in outer space, the Orcus space station known as the Bloom. The shuttle docks, and several employees step off, unaware of the phasing mutant that has followed them. The Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, quickly begins to move through the station as alarms begin to blare, warning of a mutant's presence. She rounds the corner into two of the guards, and they open fire quickly, and she phases through them, and the blasts move through her body harmlessly. She then charges forward, lashing out, knocking them out with a quick punch and a kick, grabbing the last one, allowing half of his body to phase through the floor as she releases him, letting his top half be cut in half and float into space. Finally, she stands outside of the cell of Firestar. Hello? Kitty? Kate? If you're outside that door, we need to talk. I have a crazy story to tell you, Firestar says, but Kitty phases through the wall, lunging at her. Traitor! She shouts, and Firestar tries to explain, but Kitty is already moving. She's hitting her hard, drawing her sword, stabbing her through the head, but keeping the blade in material. Moments away from death, Firestar begins to babble out the story in one long breath. She explains that while the attack was happening, all the mutants were forced through the gates. Jean Grey inserted a memory into every member of Orcus's head that Firestar was working with them as a double agent so that Firestar could help all of those who survived in whatever way she could. But before she could tell anyone else, Jean Grey died. And now I'm here alone trying to do what I can. I didn't ask for any of this. I can be of service. I'm a mutant and I'm proud. I resist. Firestar finishes, and Kitty hesitates for a moment before removing the sword from her head. Firestar looks at her. I know you don't believe me, but it's the truth. Kitty pauses for another moment before lowering the weapon. Are you kidding me? That is the most Jean Grey story I've ever heard in my life, she says with a smile, holding her hand out, helping the young mutant to her feet. You good? Kate asks her. As Kitty is preparing to escape the space station, Firestar asks her to tell the others so that no one else tries to kill her. But Kitty smiles and shakes her head. Absolutely not. It's good for your cover for us to fight once in a while. The two women then head to the Krakoan gate on the ship, and Firestar is shocked that Kitty can pass through it. Make the most out of Jean's sacrifice. Get us as much intel as you can and disrupt whatever you can. Hope you survive the experience, Kitty says before stepping through the portal, leaving Firestar all alone. Later that night, Kitty meets with Emma outside the Hellfire Club. Don't worry, it didn't happen, she explains, and Emma nods, asking if she's learned of Scott's location. But Kitty shakes her head. It's been weeks. We need to find him. If I'm leaving the relative safety of this cover and driving off a cliff with you, then I need to know that he is sorted out, Emma says, but as Emma turns away, she tells Kitty to give her a moment so that she can tell Tony Stark that she is leaving. We're gonna make a good team. There isn't a single one of them that we can't kill together, Kitty tells her, but as Emma heads back inside, she is shocked by Fei Long, the man who failed to conquer Mars from the mutants, and he has somehow managed to take Tony's technology by force. Anger begins to fill Emma as she moves towards him, but Tony grabs a hold of her, pulling her into a private room. Hang on! Hear me out! He hisses at her as she struggles, but Tony puts up a hand telling her that while he has made progress, he needs to get information from Fei Long. If you go out there, you're going to prolong this war. If you take off that ring, you're going to bring Sentinels to our door. Tony snaps at her, but Emma orders him to get out of her way and she lashes out, kneeing him in the groin, stumbling to his knees as Fei Long walks through the door. What the hell are you doing, Stark? Marrying the help? Fei Long chuckles to himself. Emma sighs, sending a message to Kitty, telling her that she won't be able to join her in her mission of revenge. I'm sorry, Emma says mentally, but Kitty smiles, turning to walk away. Me too, Emma. Me too. Will the mutants survive this? Well, we'll find out later because this is to be continued. If you want to support Comicstorian, check out our hot sauce down below. This hot sauce is. Or check out Mangastorian, or go to our Comicstorian full story channel. All the links are down below. See you next time.